I'm Adam Reilly. Tonight on Greater Boston, Massport's looking for a new CEO, and East Boston activists are hoping to get a say in who gets picked. I'll talk to two of them ahead. Then ahead of Valentine's Day, what else has happened on February 14th throughout history? And finally, the woman behind the popular cupcakes from Baked by Melissa. For decades, activists in East Boston have clashed with the Massachusetts Port Authority, at one point successfully blocking a plan to expand Logan Airport further into the neighborhood. Now, as Massport looks for its new CEO, the East Boston community is seizing the opportunity to try to make their voices heard once again, posting their own version of a job description with the qualifications they would like to see in a new agency leader. Joining me now are two of those East Boston residents and activists. Sandra Nijjar is a member of Mothers Out Front, as well as part of the Logan Community Clean Air Coalition and founder of the East Boston Community's Soup Kitchen. And John Walkey is Director of Climate Justice at Green Roots and a board member of Airport Impact Relief Incorporated. Thank you both for being here. So Sandra Nijjar, why did you deliver a job description to Massport, which I don't believe they asked you to create for them?
Yes, they did not. It would be really wishful thinking if they did it on their own. We did that because it is our responsibility to, but it's mainly, we have to advocate for our community. We know how much we have to put up with, how much suffering we go through in dealing with the pollution, all the stresses that come from the Massport, and all the experiences that we've had in the past with Massport, that they just do not pay attention to all the impacts that they are causing to our health and our lifespan, and all the stress that they bring to us. They have really created so much injustice towards our well-being and quality of life that we have in our community. We're constantly being, pushed around. So it is our, I feel that it is our duty, our responsibility to advocate for us.
A way to push back, it sounds like you're saying. Okay, John Walkey, can you describe in somewhat greater detail the impacts that Sandra alluded to? What are the impacts? If you live in East Boston, how does the airport affect your life detrimentally?
Sure. I mean, it's nice to be able to roll out of bed a short time before your flight goes out because you live so close to the airport, so there's a positive. But in large part, I'm not flying every day. I am having to get around the neighborhood, and there's 143,000 car trips going out, out through the airport at peak periods. On a peak day, there's 35,000 pounds of air contaminants that are pollution that's being dumped over us. For every propeller plane you see leaving from there, but not a jet, there's leaded gas that it's burning over. Like, we stopped using lead in regular cars, but the flights to the Cape or whatnot are dumping leaded gas fumes over us. So there's air pollutions, there's noise, obviously, is a huge one, the traffic, and then just the footprint that it takes up. And there's a long history of fighting back against airport expansion, and it still continues today.
Sandra, the job description that you came up with is pretty hefty, as job descriptions tend to be. If you could point to one or two aspects of that job description that you would really like to see in whoever's picked to run Massport permanently next, what would they be?
I would want someone who is sensitive, someone who is fair, someone who has who is culturally educated, someone who understands the diversity that exists here in this neighborhood, and diversity meaning, people of all walks of life. We have, socioeconomic differences and the different cultures that we have, the different languages that we speak, and respecting, that we are neighbors and we want to work with Massport, but there's just so much resistance on their side. Look at this. We sent them this letter, like a month ago? and we have not yet received any response back from them.
We
That's
actually,
to show you how much they care.
We actually have a statement from Massport that we got for this segment, and I'd like to roll it. This will give you a sense of how they're responding. Massport said to us, Massport has worked hard to demonstrate its commitment to neighboring communities. The board's mindful that this important commitment must be maintained in the future. The official Massport CEO candidate profile reflects this goal in the balance of the unique qualities we are seeking in an ideal candidate. We appreciate the community's perspective as the process of hiring the next CEO continues. John Walkey, I want to ask you, you and Sandra and your compatriots decided to put this job description out there as I think it's fair to say, a political act, attempting to exercise your influence. Is there any mechanism in place to guarantee that members of the community have a say as Massport engages in their selection process for the next CEO?
Given the track record of how the hiring process usually goes, I'd say not really. Massport, as you know, is one of those strange beasts in Massachusetts government where it's a quasi-public agency. It's not exactly like Mass DOT or something. It's not totally beholden to the governor. It's beholden to a board. It's beholden to the FAA. So they answered to those. And I think that the real important thing and the quality of the person that we hope they hire is that really the priorities that guide their work have always been the priorities of getting the planes in and out, being efficient, and growth. They run like a business. They generate revenue that they live off of. So they want to grow. And our question is, like, is that for the best for common good? Is this the best for the community? We would like someone who comes in with the perspective not just of the business side of it, but of the community and the sustainability of things.
Sandra, I want to ask you a little bit more about the political landscape around this. But first, I think, John, you mentioned earlier that there's a history here. I want to just roll to give people a sense of that history, some of which they saw at the outset. I want to roll a little video of anti-airport protesters singing a song to Fred Salvucci when he was Mass Transportation Secretary back in 1977. Let's take a look.
Tow, tow, tow the planes away from our neighborhoods. Merrily, 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 life will be a dream.
All right, so there it is, pointing up the fact that this is not, in fact, a new dynamic that we're talking about here. Sandra, can you tell me if, politically speaking, you feel like you and John and the people who want the things that you want, are you getting support from your Boston City councilors, from your representatives at the State House, all the way up to Governor Healy? Are they allies as you see them?
Yes and no. It's a very complicated type of situation because they say that they are helping us, and we expect to see more, and we get disappointed often because some of the things that we know they could do more, they don't, and yet they tell us that they are. So it's a complicated thing. They say it's not under my hands, it's out of my hands. I'm doing my best, I'm having conversations and this and that. And we wonder, how much are they really doing? Because we do rely on them. We do have, confidence that they can do more. When
you say that, I'm reminded of the pushback against that new electrical substation in East Boston, which, Sandra, if I remember right, I believe you were arrested at one point at a protest, right? I think we have some video of
both of us.
Forgive me, I didn't mean to.
I got another. That was a separate occasion.
Okay, yeah, I should give you both your due for sticking your necks out to the extent that you were in fact arrested. John Walkey, does that represent the dynamic that Sandra is talking about with politicians saying, we're concerned about this issue, we're having conversations about it, but you all not quite getting what you hope you're going to get?
Yeah, I think it's in fairness to the politicians, they are not elected just to represent, like me. They're elected to represent a lot of other interests that are there. The challenge is that a lot of those other interests have a whole lot of money and wherewithal and attorneys and sway on the process. And we have those moments when they're out looking for votes to try to affect it. And and that has been the experience, is that we get promises along the campaign trail, and then when it comes time to implement it, the reality is it's very complicated. And the complicated part is we're talking about changing systems and changing things that are very big and expensive, but it's a matter of where your priorities are. Are your priorities just to keep things the status quo, or are your priorities actually to be proactive and adapt to a new environment?
There's one other fight that's going on right now, and Sandra, I want to give you a chance to just talk briefly, maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds about it. What is the fight over this proposed new haul road in East Boston about?
We do not want it. That is just going to open doors to bring massive trucks, to contribute to the pollution to the air, to contribute to the massive traffic that we already deal with. So it's more impacts to our health overall. More stress, and no, we do not want that. And I wanted to also say that when it's time for their side to protect themselves, they go overboard. For us, when we got arrested, we didn't even do anything. We were just there with signs. We were not even saying anything. And they activated the anti-terrorist squad coming after 12 of us neighbors. So it's so unfair the way they treat us.
We have to leave it there. Sandra Nijjar and John Walkey, thank you both for talking this through. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on.
It's the time of the season for loving.
Yes, indeed, just as 60s rock legends, the Zombies, famously saying, it's the time of the season for loving. Valentine's Day 2024 is now just a week away, so it is time to get those flower orders in, the dinner reservations made, and all those thoughtful cards purchased. And here now to show some curious love for February 14th is the guy behind GBH's Curiosity Desk, Edgar B Herwick III. What's up, Edgar?
How you doing, Adam?
Good.
If you are writing out a card to one of your loved ones this Valentine's Day season, take a moment, if you would, and show a little love for the city of Worcester, which is essentially the birthplace of the American Valentine industry.
Worcester is.
Worcester.
Because I tend, and I'm probably going to get angry emails or calls, I don't think of Worcester as a wildly romantic place.
Well, it's basically back in the 1840s, when America didn't have much of a Valentine itself. We're talking about like greeting card kind of Valentine, like sending a Valentine. There wasn't really much of an industry here, but in Europe, they had, what had become popular were these like very romantic, sort of lacy Valentines. And there was a woman, Esther Howland. She was a graduate of Mount Holyoke, and at the age of 19, as the story goes, she got a Valentine, one of these European Valentines, and thought, you know what, we could do them here. So she started sort of making them in her house. Her father owned a stationery store. She built it up into a whole industry. Eventually, she teams up with some other people from the area, formed the New England Valentine Company in 1879, and for about 100 years, the center of the American-created Valentine industry was happening in Worcester.
That's
and
very cool.
If you visit the Worcester Historical Museum, they have an incredible collection of these vintage Valentines even today, which you can still see.
You are piquing my curiosity.
That's what we're going
you're
for
here to
here.
do.
So here was my premise, though, Adam. I was thinking everybody's going to be showing love to Valentine's Day, but I thought we would take a little tour through February 14th in history. With a little fun true and false of things that have nothing to do with Valentine's Day, but happened or didn't happen on February 14th.
Okay, that works for me in part because I'm so bad at executing Valentine's Day. So, yeah, let's do it.
So, true or false? We'll start here with this one, Adam. True or false? On February 14th, 1752, nothing of note happened in Massachusetts or any other of the British colonies because there was no February 14th in 1752. True or false?
I don't know why there wouldn't have been one, but I like the idea of there not being one, so I'll say true.
It is false, but you're kind of right, because there were days missing in that year. So we went from September 2nd to September 14th in that year.
What?
Yeah, missing days. Totally missing days. And this had to do with the fact that we used to be on something called the Julian calendar, which was Julius Caesar, right? The rest of the world, I shouldn't say the world, the rest of Europe switched to something called the Gregorian calendar sometime in the 1500s. The English didn't do it until later, and it had to do with, we're basically on a solar system here. We're trying to follow the solar year. The Julian calendar kind of had the numbers wrong, and we were slipping off from the solar calendar.
So we just cut out 2 weeks.
Yeah, so the Gregorian calendar fixed that, but by the time we got around to fixing it here, we had to cut out a couple of days to get back on track.
Well, fortunately, we're more on top of problems these days.
Yeah.
Tackle them nice and early. Okay, what else?
Okay, true or false? You ready for another one here?
Yep.
Here we go. Let's bring it up on the screen. True or false? On February 14th, 1859, Oregon was admitted into the Union as the 33rd state.
I don't remember this being part of Oregon Trail when I played it as a kid, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes.
That is true.
True.
You are correct. Now, we should say the entrance of Oregon into the Union is sort of a fascinating and I think undertold piece of our history. So if you look at that year, you'll maybe note that this is pretty close to the start of the Civil War. And this is a period of time when the United States, as they were bringing states into the Union, there were all these deals happening to kind of balance so-called free states and so-called slave states that were coming into the Union. So Oregon comes into the Union as a free state. And I think the deal had something to do with some southwestern states opening up as slave states. However, Oregon's Constitution, when they come into the United States, says there is no slavery in Oregon, but it is also illegal for black people to come into Oregon. No new black residents in the state of Oregon. And they also were no longer, if they were living there, they couldn't own real estate, they couldn't make contracts, they couldn't vote, they couldn't use the legal system.
Good God.
And this stretches back a couple of decades. Even when it was a territory, they had these so-called exclusion laws on the books in Oregon. Now, of course, the Civil War eventually breaks out. 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, they supersede state law in Oregon. But it's one of those pieces of history that I don't think a lot of people
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty, it's interesting. What Oregon has done, I think in 2002, voters, even though the law had long been superseded, they put a vote in place where they said, we're going to take all of this language out of our Constitution, even if it's a relic. And the Secretary of State website in Oregon does a really nice job of being very honest about this racist past. They have a good timeline about what happened, and they have a section where black Oregonians who were living there at the time are detailed their life, their history, what they know about them.
That's interesting, and in part because I think of Oregon as this kind of progressive mecca. I probably really think of Portland as a progressive mecca, and I know that Portland is not the entire state, but such a radical difference between that and what you described.
It is also still, as you see the long arm of these things, it is still one of the whitest states in the Union.
Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. Want to do another one?
Yeah.
One more, true or false?
Well, at least one more.
Okay, true or false, Adam? True or false? February 14th, 1876. Both Alexander Graham Bell and Elisha Gray filed for patents for their invention, the telephone, on the same day.
Is it bad to admit that I'm not familiar with Elisha Gray?
Well, no, I think that's kind of part of that's part of why I bring it up here.
Then in that case, all right, you gave me a little something to
learn a little bit more about.
Then in that case, true.
It is true. It is true. So as you say, Elisha Gray, not quite as well known as Alexander Graham Bell. They do both file for this patent on the same day. Neither of them had made the telephone work yet. Eventually, this is something that ends up playing out in the court for years. Apparently, I don't know that we even know to this day, but Alexander Graham Bell maybe had an inside deal with the patent office, maybe got a look at Elisha Gray's drawings, and it was shortly thereafter that he finally got the telephone to work. And so eventually in court, Alexander Graham Bell is the person who's awarded the patent. Apparently when he actually makes the thing, out available to the world, he's not using Elisha Gray's technology anymore. But as we can see, Alexander Graham Bell is obviously the person we know today, Elisha Gray.
Yeah, it's automatic.
Now, interesting, did you know this is also a local story for us? No. The very first telephone call comes a couple of weeks later in March of that same year. It was placed in Boston.
Where was it placed here? Do you know?
It was like downtown. I think there's I think there's a 7-Eleven there now.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if it was the Parkman House because it seems like literally everything happened in the Parkman House.
It could be.
And every single person who's famous in world history worked in the Parkman House or stayed in the Parkman House.
This is what the curiosity is about. Hopefully we inspire your curiosity to go out and learn more. Also, the first telephone call, two-way telephone call, comes in October of that year, placed from Cambridge to Boston.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how enraging it would be to come up
To be
with
Elijah Gray.
World, yeah, basically to be Elijah Gray.
Be like, I figured it out. It all has to do with this liquid transmitter, apparently. That was Elisha Gray's thing. And like, that was apparently maybe what Alexander Graham Bell then used to make it work at first, but then once he figured out he could make it work with the liquid transmitter, he went back to his technology.
But would he have gotten back to his technology in
know.
an effective way if he hadn't used the liquid
This is one of those things, this is a very interesting story. I highly encourage people to look into it more because it's more detailed than I'm
That is genuinely fascinating.
But that is, I mean, in industry, that industry and discovery thing is an interesting thing, right? Because like figuring stuff out, the science of stuff, right, is collaborative. But the like ownership of a patent and the producing of something is proprietary. And so there's that tension, even today, when it comes to like new technologies.
This was really fun. Edgar B
glad to hear
Herwick
that.
III, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, and you too.
Thank you. Speaking of Valentine's Day, you may know Baked by Melissa from her tiny yet vibrant mini cupcakes, or maybe her fast-paced recipe TikToks. But now Bostonians can get a taste of her creations at her pop-up shop in the Seaport. Melissa Ben-Ishay, the woman behind Baked by Melissa, is here now along with some treats and her new cookbook, Come Hungry. Can you start off, thank you for being here, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
Can you start off by giving me the origin story of the tiny cupcake? When you got doing this, why did you go small as opposed to going for behemoths?
Sure. Well, I was 24 years old working in advertising as an assistant media planner, baking cupcakes for everyone and anyone. If it was your birthday and I loved you, I baked you tie-dye cupcakes. I was fired from my job and I went home and baked cupcakes. My brother and I always wanted to start a business together, so we decided to give it a run, and we decided to make them small so you could try them all.
That is crafty. You don't have the commitment, right, that a big cupcake entails. Maybe you're less ambivalent about trying a number of them. What have your most popular flavors been over the years that you've been doing this? About 16 years now, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So our most popular flavor is our signature tie-dye, but right now we have our Valentine's Day assortment available for a limited time only. Strawberry, brookie, dark chocolate, marshmallow. Some of my favorite flavors are in this assortment. With this limited edition gift box at bakedbymelissa.com, it's the perfect Valentine's Day gift, and we ship nationwide.
I was going to ask you, so that are the cupcakes right in front of you? Is that what you're going to get in one of these boxes?
Yes, you get 25 cupcakes in my favorite flavors, and the whole premise behind this assortment, I created each flavor. They work better together, so I like to eat a cupcake sandwich. So like the strawberry and the dark chocolate, right, strawberry and dark chocolate here. If you put them like a sandwich and take a bite, it tastes like a chocolate-covered strawberry.
So you're actually talking about, I was thinking you were talking sequence when it comes to sandwiching. You're talking a physical sandwich.
Yes, they're great alone too, but you know, I've been doing this for 16 years, so I have all different ways to enjoy these delicious bite-sized cupcakes.
Okay, so that's one pairing. By the way, I'm agonizing over whether I should try one or not, because if I try one, I'll probably go full Cookie Monster and there'll be crumbs flying around. So I'm still on the fence, but were I to try another sandwich or another combination, what would another combo be?
So this one's dulce de leche, which would go great with marshmallow. I'm like not a vanilla lover, I'm more of a chocolate girl. Brookie also pairs well with everything. It's chocolate cake overstuffed with chocolate chip cookie dough, and then it has a piece of blondie on top, and it works so well with all of them.
That sounds extremely good. I'm curious, not to emphasize the negative, but given that you've been doing this for a while, have you ever rolled out a flavor that you thought was just sublime, that was going to catch on, that people were going to love, and they didn't love it?
You know, not really. I think we have a mini of the month, so we launch a new flavor every month, and then we have 3 flavors that come out for each season, and we've been doing this for so long. My biggest takeaways are that the classic dessert combinations or flavor combinations that you grew up eating, like chocolate chip cookie dough, peanut butter and jelly. We have a white chocolate hot cocoa flavor right now. Like that's what people gravitate towards. There was a time where we would like do fruit flavors a little bit more. Like we did pina colada one year. We did a chocolate banana flavor, which was actually delicious, but I wouldn't do it again for other reasons. So I think now we're kind of like a well-oiled machine We know what flavors our customer loves.
I want to ask you why you wouldn't do the chocolate banana again, but I can't because I got to give you a chance to talk about your cookbook. So you've got this new cookbook, which is not restricted to the sort of items that we see in front of us, right? What's in your new cookbook?
My new cookbook is based on my food philosophy, which is that if you get your nourishment and fulfillment from meals, you can indulge in dessert every day just like me. So it's really vegetable focused. It's almost entirely salads, toasts, because I like to eat like salad on toast, and then there's a whole dessert section.
When you mentioned toast, obviously you got avocado toast, but what are other healthy toasts?
Oh my God, I have this cucumber toast, and then there's a green goddess toast, which uses my green goddess salad that went viral on social media.
So that'd be like kale and...
The green goddess toast is actually leftover green goddess salad. So there's a green goddess salad recipe, and you put it on toast with a fried egg and avocado, and it is so good. I believe toast is the perfect vessel for vegetables, and toast is a sandwich with one piece of bread, which makes the ratio of flavors perfect every bite, just like every bite of cupcakes.
Can you tell me why you chose to set up shop in the Seaport in particular when you started your pop-up as opposed to going to some other neighborhood in Boston?
Yeah, well, so the opportunity actually presented itself to us at Baked by Melissa, and we knew it was a great location. It's right near the Holiday Market. It's literally like the store you walk past when you're walking down the stairs to the Holiday Market. And the Seaport is such an awesome place that is really thriving right now. So it was a great opportunity for us to really understand the Boston market, if you will. We know we have so many customers and really brand enthusiasts here because we've been shipping our product here for so many years, and we were very excited to have a chance to have a pop-up here. And go visit Baked by Melissa at the Seaport. We're not going to be around forever, but we're there through April.
Well, that was my next question. I was wondering if it could become a permanent thing, but it's not.
That location won't be permanent, but we would love to have a permanent location here in Boston. It's been a wonderful experience.
So if people want to pick up something for Valentine's Day, how quickly do they need to act? Because some people, like myself, tend to wait until the last minute or after the last minute. How soon do people need to be shopping and ordering?
Well, you could go to bakedbymelissa.com right now and place an order for shipping, pickup, or local delivery in the Seaport area. You could walk into the store on Valentine's Day, of course, and get cupcakes as well. These are going quickly. So if you're looking to ship to anybody you love all over the country, go to bakedbymelissa.com and place your order now.
All right, Melissa, Ben-Ishay, thank you for the breakdown, and I'll follow your advice when the camera's not rolling and I can be completely shameless. Appreciate it.
I'm going to have one now, too.
That's it for tonight, but do come back tomorrow. Frontline filmmaker Michael Kirk joins me on Trump, the 2024 election, and his new documentary, Democracy on Trial. Plus, how Stewart Healthcare's money problems are hurting local community nonprofits. That and more tomorrow at 7. Thanks for watching. I'm Adam Reilly. Good night.
Next time.